Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at KAKM for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. Up first here still, we've got the web change going on, or the change to the web page for the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit at www.weather.gov/Alaska. And that change will be occurring on July 14th, so kind of get yourself acquainted with the new links, maps, and the products that go along with it. And for the fire danger, still quite an area of extreme fire danger going on up here over the northern interior areas, on back down, well, and then another area here over the Yukon Delta with high fire danger in between, back up to those areas. A little less back up here over the Brooks Range. A lot less fire danger south of, well, from about the White Mountains on down. Still kind of high in areas of the Copper River Basin, but non-existent here for the Panhandle, south central Alaska. Then the Alaska Peninsula here, or the downslope areas of the Aleutian Range on down on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula in the eastern areas. Looks like some areas of high fire danger there as well. On yesterday's satellite imagery, sunshine through the eastern interior, and then that caused the afternoon heating, or the daytime heating, to set off some convection again, like it's been going on for a while, but more sunshine back out here to the west. Low pressure well southwest of the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska, and a weak front right along the coast there, kind of weakening, but did have some moisture with it, but more bands spinning around that center, pushing up to the north, and clouds here back to the northwest of Kodiak Island and the Kenai Peninsula. Really nice across Bristol Bay, cloud free here at Alaska Peninsula until you get down to about roughly Sand Point, Nelson Lagoon on off to the southwest. And then you get a lot of moisture out here over the Bering Sea with that front pushing eastward there, just north of the chain, or along and north of the chain from Adak to Shemya, but still to the west of Nikolsky and in Alaska. Well, on today, overnight last night, that pushed eastward, got into a break there, but more action rolling in form of clouds and showers into the Fox Islands there. The main front here kind of weakly across the Alaska Peninsula, and the main low center back out over the western Aleutians there. Clouds across all of the Bering Sea, a few breaks here off the southwest coast, and sunshine in over the Yukon Delta, northeastward all the way up to the eastern north slope, and some clouds here along the north slope on the west side, kind of just holding in place there throughout the day today. The main rain producing clouds still back to the northwest with another system up in that area, and a cloudy day with some moisture here across the southeast coast, all the way up along the North Gulf Coast, with showers across the Kenai Peninsula. Thunderstorms developing again today there over the eastern interior areas, on down to the Alaska Range, in some cases even to the south, as well as up to the northeast, and also just east of the Panhandle there, east of the border. That's mostly thunderstorm activity going on there. Otherwise, across the southeast coast and offshore, that's all just showers. And the front out here to the west, some gusty winds, not too bad though, 20-25 knots. From about the Pribilofs on up to the north there, and then dying back St. Lawrence Island with light winds there. A narrow band of some light rain, fog, or drizzle there along the western Arctic coast, possibly from Kivalina up to the central coast, but a more extensive area farther back and along and behind that frontal boundary just off to the northwest. And then main low center here increases the rainfall and more clouds out there over the western central Aleutians. And for tonight's forecast, that front edges its way, not really a whole lot there, but almost remains stationary, so keeping it wet across the Pribilofs with clouds, light rain, drizzle, fog all the way down across the Alaska Peninsula. Stays nice over Bristol Bay, partly to mostly cloudy. or just partly cloudy. Same forecast for Kodiak Island. Dry conditions though. Looks like for the Kenai Peninsula, not much in the way of shower activity going on, as well as the Susitna Valley, and some leftover showers back through this area from the central interior on down toward the Yukon Delta. It may not be a lot as cloudy as what I've got drawn in here. There'll be some scattered shower activity, nothing too significant. Thunderstorms dying off, diminishing eastern interior, but may linger, isolated strikes in toward tomorrow morning. And then that frontal boundary up off the central western Arctic coast there, that will be the best chance of seeing any moisture there from about Licktock on down to maybe Point Hope, but dry from the northwest there, Kotzebue Sound, Buckland, Deering, Shishmaref, of course, Selawik and Kobuk, looking really good, dry conditions, mostly clear across the north slope and much of the Brooks Range into the Yukon Flats areas. And still high pressure now just off the coast, right behind this trough that isn't moving too fast there. So rain showers continue mostly over the northern and central areas, a little bit less on down toward the Queen Charlotte's and Dixon entrance. And then for the forecast for tomorrow, got some more moisture here coming westward, so look for the rain and shower chances to begin to increase late tomorrow in the daytime here, with thunderstorms again over the eastern interior areas, and then extending back to the west to about the Nulato Hills in a narrow band right through here, with it sunny and hot to the north of that zone, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. Looks like could be some pretty good sunshine possibly there, definitely for the areas to the south on toward the Brooks Range. Still a chance of moisture and clouds there, western Arctic coastal areas, but staying north of Kivalina and the Bering Strait, but rain advancing in with the moisture here. It should stay off the coast, although Nunivak Island will be vulnerable to it there, as well as St. Lawrence Island possibly, but definitely the Pribilofs there. Another front rotating around. The first one sort of dissipates right through here. Another one that was a trough develops into roughly a frontal boundary that will move to about that position. Not much in the way of significant wind with it there at all, but keeping it wet for the peninsula, and wet conditions all the way back to the central Aleutians, tending to scatter out over the west side there. And this low here south of the area really not affecting too much with it, but still a chance of some showers for Kodiak Island and the North Gulf Coast areas. And then moisture is going to move westward, and by Sunday afternoon should be past the area, come across south central Alaska with some pretty good rainfall, especially overnight tomorrow night. There's a ½ inch to an inch coming with that westward push of another easterly wave coming in from the east. And by Sunday afternoon, still be showers over the Kenai Peninsula, but drying out over the northern areas, maybe some clearing late in the day. Matanuska, Susitna Valley areas, especially Tanana Valley, looking really good, partly cloudy at worst. Looks like any convection will be possibly north of the Eagle area, maybe a little bit more through here, but not too much at all to speak of. And staying basically dry, just some temporary rainfall right near the thunderstorms or whatever showers develop in this area. So lightning strikes will be quite a concern for fire danger up there. North slope mostly sunny, Arctic coast, low clouds, fog in areas at times possible, maybe a little bit of drizzle, but most of that will be offshore. And for the panhandle, a couple of troughs still bringing showers and keeping it wet there right through Sunday. So kind of a cloudy, wet weekend coming up. Continuation of, I guess, summer type weather down in that area up to maybe Yakutat, less of a threat there. And temperatures down that way this afternoon, anywhere from the upper 50s to mid 60s, with 65 there at Wrangell. Stewart up to 73 degrees, although Annette and Klawock both at 57. 57 Elfin Cove, 63 up at Skagway, and a 61 degree reading at Yakutat. Upper 50s there at Cordova to Whittier. Lower 60s Whittier, or at Seward and Homer, 62 degrees there. 68 at Kenai, and a 68 degree reading both at Palmer and Talkeetna, as well as Gulf Canada and north of the mountains into the 70s. Lower to mid there for the eastern Tanana Valley area, 75 at Fairbanks, up to 83 at Eagle. So about 10 degrees cooler than what you saw yesterday up in those areas, although Tanana still pushing up to 79 at 4 p.m. Otherwise 84 at Fort Yukon and 77 at Arctic Village there, with 70s back to the west to about Ambler and Arctic coast there. We had 66 over at New Wixit with 57 at Kaktovik and a 52 degree reading at Point Lay. Kotzebue, 63 degrees today, 10 degrees cooler other side of the peninsula there. South side there at Nome with 70 or 65 at McGrath, 70 degrees at Sleepmute, and a 68 at Bethel with 50s along the coast. And for the Pribilofs, near 50 this afternoon. Same thing for the Central Aleutians, upper 40s, a little cooler back towards Shemya. Lower 50s here for the Eastern Aleutians on Alaska, as well as the Alaska Peninsula. But at Pilot Point, 63 degrees, about the same in King Salmon, Iliamna 66. Lows tonight near 60, 55 to 60, northeast interior back to the mid-river valley areas, and then near 50, upper 40s along the coast, Bering Sea and the Aleutians, mid-50s for the Panhandle, upper 40s to mid-50s here, southern Alaska. For the highs tomorrow, back into the 80s, 80 to 85 or even warmer, 86, 7 or 8 here over the eastern interior. And of course, that'll trigger some thunderstorm activity once again, but kind of in a narrow band back to the west there. Cooler to the south, pretty good to the north again. Temperatures into the 70s over portions of the north slope and 50s along the Arctic coast. Not much change for the Panhandle, upper 50s to mid 60s there, and mid 60s for Bristol Bay. Flying weather, good VFR late tonight, early tomorrow, but got some marginal VFR Kodiak Island, all of the Gulf of Alaska and to the southeast coast, and then northward here up and over the southeast Copper River Basin. IFR back to the west there comes eastward tomorrow afternoon across the Pribilofs, right in the thick of it, southwest of St. Lawrence Island, back down toward the eastern Aleutians, south side of the Alaska Peninsula, and now marginal VFR covering just about all of the Copper River Basin right up to the crest of the Alaska Range and possibly westward, but not quite reaching the western Alaska Range. Thunderstorms right through this area. And for passes, wrong side, Anaktuvuk VFR tomorrow, same forecast for Adigan, no problems up north. Lake Clark and Merrill VFR as well. And rainy, all the marginal clouds should stay off to the east, hopefully. Windy VFR. And Isabel, though, marginal VFR, risk of a thunderstorm. Same forecast from Antasta. Tanita, IFR and the eastern entrance tomorrow. So it looks pretty low for the Tanita Pass area, otherwise marginal VFR. Portage marginal, and for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, cool out over the northeast Pacific, Gulf of Alaska. Warm air aloft, upper level ridging, 12,000 feet plus there over the Yukon and Northwest Territories, and that extends westward into the interior at 10,000 feet, actually all the way over to Russia, and then a little bit cooler, but not all that chilly actually, 8,000 feet about the lowest there over the southern Bering Sea. Icing above 10,000 feet, way up there, so Alaska Peninsula with the moisture back over the southeast Bering Sea and the Pribilofs. Another batch here over the southeast interior with that moisture coming eastward actually here, spreading in across northern Cook Inlet, Matanuska, Susitna Valley. Could be moderate rime in areas there, and then areas of on down the southeast coast. With the jet stream easterly flow here carrying those batches of moisture westward, with a pretty good one coming across again south central Alaska over the weekend, but exiting, moving into the Kuskokwim Valley on Sunday. Otherwise high pressure, warm conditions, no change for the interior. And the 9,000 foot wind southeasterlies 25 to 30 knots here from the Alaska Peninsula right along the coast, and then southwest 25 western Arctic coast. Light winds here central interior, even light winds down across the Panhandle of the Gulf of Alaska. 25 knot westerlies over the central Aleutians. 3,000 feet, a couple of low centers out west, but not all that strong. Tightest gradient right through here along the southwest coast of the Alaska Peninsula. 20 or 30 to 35 knots, otherwise 5 to 10 over the interior. And the Panhandle, turbulence-wise with those winds, mechanical chop, maybe on the moderate side there, on the lee side of the terrain there, especially for small aircraft, the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise pretty smooth everywhere else with a distinct lack of wind. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Coming up on Destination Tomorrow, we take a look at NASA's Aviation Safety Program. We'll look back at some highlights of the program and find out what the future holds for aviation. All this and more next on Destination Tomorrow.
We found that changing the seats has made a lot of difference and saved a lot of lives. However, there's more we can do. We need to look at the whole system, like changing the structure so that not only do we has the seat stay attached, but energy is taken out of the system through the structure itself. And they're wearing special restraints that keep them in their seat, and also may even put airbag technology in some of the aircraft. And for large airplanes, we're even looking at changing the design so that it will deliberately brake in certain places. Then we can determine where not to put hot things or sharp things or fuel lines and things like that, so that people can get out or egress through these openings in the large aircraft.
Lisa, a lot of the things that you described are things that NASA and the industry are doing to make flying safer, but is there anything the general public can do to make flying safer?
Yes, you can check your luggage, all of it if possible, because things in the luggage bins do become flying objects in a crash event. Computers, for instance, are very heavy objects, and if they come flying through the aircraft at landing speeds of 200 knots, then you have an issue because it will definitely injure people. People are not replaceable, things are, so if you can check the luggage, then you're doing a great service to prevent injuries in an accident. We want people to walk away from these survivable events and not have any injuries. And we're working hard to get there.
Did you know that NASA researchers are working with industry to better train pilots and airline personnel? In recent years, NASA researchers have developed textbooks and web-based programs that help increase pilot proficiency in an automated cockpit, while also improving training for maintenance crews and inspectors. These programs are increasing awareness and helping to prevent future accidents from ever occurring. In recent years, NASA researchers have also been focused on reducing fuel flammability and in detecting fires aboard aircraft. In fact, NASA recently won the prestigious R&D 100 award for a fire detection system that has a very low false alarm rate. Dust, dirt, and aerosols frequently fool current fire detection systems, creating about 200 false alarms for every real fire. This is problematic for many different reasons. When a fire alarm goes off, a pilot will immediately initiate emergency landing procedures and will divert the flight to the closest airport. This is not only inconvenient, but is also very expensive, costing the airlines about $50,000 for each false alarm. It's clear to see that this new NASA system will not only save money, but also make flying safer.
NASA has also worked to reduce the chance of an explosion inside an aircraft's fuel tank. When some fuel tanks are not completely full, research has found that wiring inside the tank may cause sparking. This sparking could ignite the oxygen contained in the empty space, causing an explosion. To fix this problem, researchers have designed a fuel system that can replace the oxygen in empty spaces with nitrogen. This works well because nitrogen suppresses fire while oxygen feeds it. Coming up, we'll take a look at a unique facility that is designed to test aircraft icing. But first, did you know that even if the engines on a large commercial aircraft fail, it should be able to glide safely to the ground? Most commercial jet aircraft have approximately a 15-to-1 glide ratio, which means it will glide 15 feet for each foot it descends. At this rate, an airplane flying at 35,000 feet can glide for about 525,000 feet, or 100 miles.
Weather conditions play an important role in all flights. Perhaps one of the most dangerous conditions that can affect aircraft is ice. Fortunately, NASA researchers have been using a unique facility that can simulate the icing effects on aircraft.
Thanks for the ice. You know, there's nothing like a beverage chilled with ice during a long flight. Inside an airplane, ice is something passengers desire. However, outside an airplane, ice can be dangerous, especially if it forms on the wings or engines. I had the opportunity to speak with Judy Foss Van Zanti at the NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio. She's researching the effects of icing on aircraft at a unique facility called the Icing Research Tunnel. Researchers at this facility study the formation of ice on the exterior of aircraft. So while flying, the only ice you'll need to worry about is the ice inside your cup.
Well, I'm standing right here in the Icing Research Tunnel. Right here we create on Earth what it's like for an airplane to fly through an icing cloud up there. To do that, we got to make it windy, cold, and wet. Now right now I'm standing in front of the fan. We have the fan to create the wind, and in the test section, which is a much smaller cross-sectional area, we can get winds up to 400 miles per hour. So that's about as fast as a plane might fly through in an icing environment. We create the cold with our heat exchanger, 1,700 ton. It can cool 500 homes. That's how big it is. We can get from 0 Celsius down to about -20, which is where the icing might occur in nature. And we have spray bars. The spray bars is what makes the icing tunnel. We create the rain. We create a mist that the airplane would fly through. Now the thing about the spray bars is the researchers need to control both how much water is in the cloud, the liquid water content we call it, and how big the drop size is. And we have spray bars specially designed to create those conditions. So in our test section, we create what it's like for a plane to fly through an icing cloud.
So why did NASA build an icing research tunnel?
As it turns out, during World War II, the Allies lost more aircraft to icing than enemy fires. They were trying to fly supplies over the Himalayas. So the Air Corps turned to NACA, that's NASA's predecessor, and asked them to build an icing research tunnel so we could understand what was going on and how to fix the problem.
So what do you test in the icing research tunnel, or the IRT?
What we test in the IRT is what makes sense to test. Now if you think about it, if you're in an airplane flying through an icing cloud, what surfaces are most critical to keep ice-free? Well, it's the wings, which provide the lift, get you off the ground, and it's the engine inlet, which provides the forward thrust. So we typically can test just those components, just the wing or the engine inlet.
So what happens when ice forms on an airplane's wing? Well, ice can disrupt the airflow over a wing and will eventually cause the airflow to separate. This separation of airflow creates more drag and less lift. If ice continues to form, the wing will no longer produce the appropriate amount of lift needed to keep the airplane in flight. In some cases, ice creates airflow separation over movable parts, like an aileron. This could create handling or control problems, and the plane could suddenly roll.
As the wing is flying through the air, the ice only accumulates around the leading edge. So that's why ice protection systems only wrap around the front part of the wing. The biggest factor in how the ice grows is temperature. So if it's really cold, the water droplet comes in, hits the front part of the wing, and freezes on impact. And you get this nice pointy rime shape. The more dangerous ice comes during warmer conditions, those closer to freezing, where the water comes in, hits the leading edge, and actually runs back a little bit. If that happens, the next droplet might come in, see that droplet that is frozen, and start to grow. So you might get these ram's horns that grow upstream. Now that significantly disrupts your airflow, and that's way off design, and that's very bad.
Welcome back, looking at the sea ice analysis done just today, this afternoon actually. Wide open now, Bering Strait up into the north here. So a lot of the west side shore fast broken off over the last couple of weeks and dissipated. Still a little bit here, right here on the west side, but opening up now even along the central coast and back eastward and toward where a bigger area of open water now, Mackenzie River Bay area and Delta, or the Bay, not the Delta. Anyway, for the marine forecast, light variable winds for the Panhandle, really the entire coastline here, a little more southeasterly at 10 down to the south there. Light variable winds over the inside waters as well, northwest from Clarence Strait to south at 15 for Lynn Canal. More westerly on Sunday, just 10 to 15 knots, so, and these seas only 4 feet. So nothing too serious going on there. Light variable winds over the southern inside waters, turning south about 15, especially for Stevens Passage, more variable for Frederick Sound, and south 20 for Lynn Canal. Prince William Sound, south 15 there with 10 to 15 knots south-southwesterlies. North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands, Kachemak Bay, Kamishak Bay, and southwest 15 for Shelikof Strait. Light southerlies there on the east side of Kodiak, and 20-knot winds for Cook Inlet. And 15 to 20 knots continue, a little lighter north of the Forelands on Sunday, but still 20 knots. South of the Forelands turn southeast at 20 for Kachemak Bay, 15 knots Shelikof Strait, 20 east side of Kodiak Island. Light variable winds, North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay, southeast at 20. Small craft advisories here across the Alaska Peninsula, 25 to 30 knots. Maybe some higher gusts out of the passes on the north side or the bays. And southeast 15 to 20 knots there, Bristol Bay. And then the 15-knot wind from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. Sunday, southeast 20 there, southwest of Kodiak Island. Turning southeast 20 becomes southwest 20, west of Castle Cape to Cape Saratchev. Southerlies at 20 knots on the north side of the peninsula. And for the Fox Islands, we've got small craft advisories tomorrow for the winds and a little bit for the seas there, especially on the Pacific side where they'll be 9 to 13 feet. Southwest 20 to 25 for the central Aleutians. West 25 just to west of Adak. There are actually small craft advisories out to about Amchitka Island, and then 15 out of the west for the areas beyond. Southwest 15 to 20 here for the western Aleutians, turn westerly at 20 knots for the central areas, and maybe some 25-knot winds with 11-foot seas there south side of the Fox Island, especially Unalaska Island. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, all the way to St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisory, southeast 25, 7 to 8-foot seas, in towards St. Matthew Island, a little lighter there for the Pribilofs. Sunday, light variable wind, so really laying down for the next day there, probably leaning a lot of low clouds and fog type stuff. Otherwise, small craft advisory south of Nunivak Island, east 20 on the north side, north 20 for St. Lawrence Island, and east 20 for St. Matthew. Eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, easterlies turn northeast as you head toward Demarcation Point, but only 15 knots, and open water over here now, so we got 4-foot seas stuck in there. And actually the central coast as well, although I didn't get it in, they had like 3 to 4-foot seas. I didn't notice it until too late. Otherwise, east 15 there, and 25 knots out of the south for the area from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. And those swing around to the north, drop back to 15, turn northwest to 20 here for the Chukchi Sea, turning westerly in across eastern Kotzebue Sound in towards Selawik. 25-knot small craft advisory or brisk wind advisories on the eastern coast for Sunday. Otherwise, chance of a little bit of moisture, nothing heavy there on the western central Arctic coast there. And diminishing showers, nothing big going on over the interior tonight. A weak front brings a chance of rain. Eastern Aleutians, or the Alaska Peninsula, and more rain over the central Aleutians. Stays wet and showery. Gathering moisture here begins to pull westward tomorrow, and looks like a pretty significant rainfall coming in across, well, from the Copper River Basin in toward the Matanuska Valley, and then that moves west on Sunday.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.